Alright, so today we're going to be doing a Let's Talk video. It's going to be mainly focused around one particular subject, being the end of form guide, but I'm going to sort of take you on a journey and go into mental health at the minute and various other things. So stay tuned for that, but we'll start off today with the main subject and the main bulk of the video, which is going to be changes coming on the channel. So I don't like making changes, but I'll be completely honest, there's some things that just need to be axed here and now before they get to a point where it bugs the shit out of us. And there's two series mainly that I need to look at in great detail, one of which is definitely going, the other one is a little bit of a meh at the minute. I'm undecided, so let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments and on my socials, most of which will be linked at some stage either in the description or you'll be able to find it. It's the same handle as what I use here. Anyway, enough of the self-promo bollocks. The two series that I'm mainly looking at is Form Guide and Q&A. Form Guide is the one that's going because, and I'll give you a couple of reasons. I've only done, I think, 3 episodes so far. Now, there are certain benefits to having a series like that, but there are 2 little benefits to actually make it worthwhile doing it as a series. So the first main benefit of doing Form Guide is the fact that I get to look back on 5 weeks worth of football in one go, which does in theory give us a more accurate representation of what's going to happen in the next week of football. Obviously that comes with its own advantages and disadvantages, because it can be the week that people end their form run, but also on this flip side it could be an indication of how far they're going to go with it. So that's one bonus of having it. But one of the major disadvantages of doing it is that you basically take up a space for a video, because I'm trying to upload every 2 days, but you're already looking back at stuff that you've already done, if that makes sense. I would much rather do it where I did it at the start of the year, where I did a reaction to it at the end, kind of similar to what the Irish guy does with the Prem catch-up. I think for him that works, but I didn't want at that point for it to be a completely sports football channel. Now, this works in my favour if I'm going to be doing sports, so football and darts, which will take up about 3 slots a week, and then I can do, say, 2 videos in between that, so I'm uploading 5 days in a row. That, in theory, would make that work, and obviously gives an extra video every week. So that's kind of the reason why I want to get rid of it, but it's not the only one. The other one being is I just cannot be bothered to look back on stuff that I've done. I'd much rather take a look at the sample size of the last 5 game weeks as I did for Form Guide, but focus more on the actual teams themselves rather than me looking back at my predictions and making it about myself. That's just not the way that I wanted to take the series forward. So the only way I can think of getting rid of that completely is axing it and putting it in the sort of mind bank for a little bit later down the line. The reason why I'm going to say that is because I have an idea to do a big football show next season. Now, I've kind of already talked about it in a little bit of detail, but the gist of it is to do about an hour long or half an hour long of purely football content, looking into obviously the Premier League, the EFL, and probably one of the major leagues each week. So there could be an argument to say, okay, we'll do, obviously Premier League and AFL are givens, mainly Championship, but we will look at the lower leagues. But then also you could say, this week we're going to look at the Eredivisie, this week we're going to look at La Liga, this week we're going to look at Bundesliga, this week Serie A, and so on and so forth. The reason why that would work is because you could look at Form Guide as a tiny little segment, and introduce it and be like, this is their last 5 games. You wouldn't look in particular detail unless there was something in that run that interested. So for example, a team's been on an 18-game winning streak, but they've lost once within that streak. Then you'd look at that game and say, okay, what weaknesses were in that game that your next opponent can exploit, if you see what I'm trying to say. The other thing that I want to try and do with the channel is possibly introduce more Newcastle Central stuff. Yeah, like the Premier League videos I often find when I'm doing the predictions, I kind of skim over the rest of the games and focus on Newcastle because it's what I'm aware of, it's what I know most about, and that will continue. But I want to try and make it a little bit more Newcastle centric. So again, just saying predictions about other teams, not necessarily giving any sort of context or detail, but then going really in depth about the Newcastle stuff. It actually gives me more of an excuse to try and end up watching the games, because I don't catch many being at work on weekends and stuff like that. It kind of fucks us up. But overall, I would much rather have a look at the game, look at it subjectively, watch it back, and give me thoughts, rather than just focus on many different clubs that I don't know enough about to give you enough detail or valuable content. I'd much rather go the direction that the Toon Review's going at the minute. They're mainly Newcastle, but they are starting to branch out into doing a commentary for another game, or for example looking into the women's game, because it's something that I've actively watched and actually enjoy going to when I have the chance. So maybe that's an argument or something else to look into in the future. The second thing I wanted to look into was Q&A. Q&A is a series that I will be uploading this month, but whether or not it goes further than May remains to be seen. The reason why is because I find it a little bit ambiguous as a series. I didn't clearly define what I was going to upload and what I wasn't, and that is a problem. The main sort of gripe I have with Q&A is, as I mentioned, it's a little bit too ambiguous, but also I think there's a lot of things that kind of cross over into other categories of content. So for example, at the minute, it kind of seems like all my series overlap. Bite Size takes a massive majority now of stuff that I could talk about. Let's Talk takes away a lot of the sort of logistics and the admin side, but also can have offshoots into mental health episodes and stuff like that. And that's maybe where I'm like, that's all I would kind of cover in Q&A, so why not integrate it in the same way I did when I first started the channel with Let's Talk About Mental Health. And I'm kind of in a place now where it's like, do I take the channel forward and ask these things as we go along and see, kind of testing the waters of how it can go, or indeed saving it in the mind bank like I did for Form Guide and kind of integrate it elsewhere, because I can't see a point in doing, like, say, 10 or 15 different series at sporadic points rather than condensing it to about 3 or 4 and doing them. It's kind of a weird situation at the minute where you could arguably take away Error 404, for example, and put it into bite-sized and then do documentaries on the longer form versions of the bite-sized content, and that would take up the bulk of the channel, and then do Let's Talk as a third one. And it actually might be something I look into doing in the future, but as of right now, the two I'm looking at, as I said, were Form Guide and Q&A, because I'm not convinced. Error 404, I think, holds its own quite well on the channel. It doesn't maybe get the viewership that I wanted to, but at the end of the day, I'm a small-time creator. That is going to be only evident. Unless I have an absolute blinder of a video, I'm never going to get to that level. So it needs to be built gradually over time and iron out the kinks while I still can. The other kind of train of thought would be, with other series on the channel, do I maybe reconsider the format of them? So do I look into, say, the likes of an Error 404, the Premier League videos, the 501 show, which is me darts series? Do I look at those and reformat them? That's a potential, because obviously I've done the Premier League, which is technically part of the 501 show, but I don't want to make it so everything's branded with 501. I want to do exactly what I did with the Premier League, which was separate thumbnails under that playlist, but separate thumbnails, separate designs, separate sort of formats, and that's kind of where I want to aim it towards. It'll be under the same banner, so in the same way Q&A would be under the Let's Talk banner, it would just be its own individual kind of show. And I don't know if that would work. I mean, you could realistically again kind of put Q&A in with DTS as a sort of sub-series, because quite evidently a lot of the Reddit story videos that I look at and various other posts, I will be expressing my own opinion, so why not make it a little sub-strain or a short to be, okay, we've done this in this DTS video, now we're going to be answering the question. So it will be the question that I'm reacting to, and then the answer will be the following video. Again, a reason to consider putting Q&A into another series. But as I say, as of right now, I'm undecided on that one. Form guide is 100% going because of the effort it takes to record, and also the fact that I don't feel like it's that valuable in terms of content right now. Maybe I'm having a little bit of a misjudgment here, or maybe I'm acting too rashly, but ultimately it's my channel and it's my responsibility to make sure I iron out what's right for me and what isn't right for me, and that at the minute is the situation. As for the mental health side of things, I just wanted to give a little bit of a quick update. So as of lately, I've just not been in a good place, and it probably comes across in a lot of different videos that I've produced, particularly the Premier League stuff and the Darts Premier League, which has been like the last week. On Tuesday, I had a little bit of an issue at work. This is last Tuesday I'm talking about here, or Tuesday before by the time this comes out. I did have a little bit of a stressful day. Basically, the long story short, manager left early. I couldn't really do much about it. There was nothing I could have done. She had her own reasons to leave. There was personal issues there, I believe, but I don't know for certain. Basically, I ended up becoming lead, and it was mental busy. It was way busier than we anticipated it being. It had just been Bank Holiday Monday the day before, and it was obviously Easter Sunday. And we thought, okay, now that that busy period is over, it wasn't even that busy. We thought, all right, we're fine. Tuesday and Wednesday were hell on earth. Tuesday, as I say, I was left on my own to be kind of the step-in manager, if that makes sense. I kind of had to lead the charge in the trading department, and it just didn't kind of work as well as I wanted it to. I nearly had a mental breakdown, and I kind of haven't been right since. It's been building up like weeks prior to this, but that was kind of the breaking point where I'd lost it, or I'd lost the grip of reality. And ever since then, I've kind of been in limbo. I mean, even sitting down to record this video has took me 4 days of consideration to actually sit down and do it. Because this is a video I can record way ahead of time, because nothing's going to change between the point at which it was recorded and the point of release. Whereas if it was something that it needed to be current, obviously like the Eni Aluko situation or whatever, then it had to be current. It couldn't have been, I record it now and release it 2 weeks, because by then everyone's forgotten about it. It had to be current. Whereas this one doesn't. Because it's just logistics and admin. But yeah, my mental health has not been in the greatest of places. I've kind of cut out a lot of my friends. As I mentioned, I think a couple months back, I kind of don't have anyone to talk to apart from my cousin, and even then I'm kind of sporadic at the minute with him, and that's completely my fault. I haven't reached out, which is a bit of a problem. But yeah, I'm in a weird situation right now, but I'll continue to get out the content as best I can. I haven't missed a day yet, so that won't be an excuse. But yeah, look out for the videos in May. I very much appreciate your support. And yeah, I kind of want to extend my thank you to you guys. I did actually get a little bit of criticism for the DTS thumbnail by a particular commenter. I can't remember your name. I'm really sorry about that. Off the top of my head anyway. But I know that you were looking at wanting something a little bit more handmade. Now, I don't know exactly what you're on about in terms of that. I'll be completely honest. I think the fact that you don't know yourself, the way that you put your comment across, I'm kind of like, do I change it or do I stick with what I've got right now? See, does the viewership actually garner the interest? If it does, obviously that stays. But if it doesn't, I'm going to have to change it. Something's going to have to change, whether it be in the way that I format something or whatever. Because I kind of find like the engagement's super low, and that's on my head. That's on my head because that is my content. That is my responsibility, because I'm not good enough in these certain departments that I need to be in. So for example, narration is a really weak point. It's improved significantly, but it's still kind of a weak point. And other things as well, me editing style, it isn't quick enough, it's not snappy enough sometimes, and that costs us valuable seconds that'll keep the engagement. So yeah, certainly things to look into going forward on the channel. As I say, the key point of the episode was to bring you the fact that Form Guide will be null and void from here on out. I am not doing the final season bit. I'm just going to react to the Championship and the Premier League within this month. The Championship will be in a couple of days' time. The Premier League, I think, is a couple of weeks. So just stay tuned for those. Other than that, I've got nothing really much else to add. Enjoy the weekend's football if you haven't already. Enjoy, obviously, the darts if you're watching that. And obviously enjoy my content if you're staying on the channel and staying tuned. So thank you so much for watching. And until my next one, see you later. And goodbye for now.